Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I did a video yesterday discussing the reason I do my bench press a certain way, even as a competitive powerlifter, and it raised a few questions. I had multiple people say, hey, your viewpoint there seems to contradict what you've said in the past about very serious athletes or people with serious goals being able to do anything to win. And let me clarify some points there. First of all, I'm not trying to be a world champion. Yes, I am very competitive. Yes, I do a lot of things to win. But let's clarify what we mean by anything to win, and I'll use myself as the example to show why it's not actually hypocrisy. For example, people know that my philosophy of strength, I'm a bit of a purist on techniques. I like to see things that are true demonstrations of strength rather than just using weird leverages and techniques to lift a lot more weight than you're capable of. I'm not a fan of the massive arch on the bench with the super wide grip. I'm not a fan of the sumo deadlift. Because let's take, for example, the last meet I did, National Championship, British Grand Prix, where I took a bronze medal in the most competitive open class. And let's look at it, and let's assume that I couldn't have got more out of my lifts. Let's set that aside, and let's assume that the technique I used, that my competition was the best I could have done, and I didn't leave anything on the platform. I took third place. The guy who beat me by 17.5 kilos on his total at a lighter body weight. So that means that if I had gotten 17.5 kilos better, I would have still lost to him and taken the exact same spot because he weighed less, so he would have outworked me. So I technically needed to add 20 kilos to my total. So let's assume that had I practiced going into the meet using the really wide bench and the big arch, which I'm against philosophically, I don't really like the idea of it. I mean, I understand people do it, and I would never judge anyone for doing it. I personally don't like it because I don't feel that it fits in with my overall philosophy. I'm not knocking anyone else who does it, but let's say I had done that and gotten 10 extra kilos out of my bench press. And let's say that I abandoned my conventional philosophy because I believe conventional carries over into better overall strength and development than the sumo does for an athlete. And I had squeezed out 5 more kilos by switching to sumo. I still would not have won as a result of that. I would have still been bronze medal instead of silver medal, because he still would have beat me by 5 kilos technically on the total that I needed. I would have needed another 5. I don't think I could have got 20 kilos out of changing those techniques. So that being said, that I wouldn't have won by doing that. And in fact, doing some of those little tweaks that only give you 5 kilos but break your other philosophies may not give you as much as just using psychological tactics do out on the field, because what you find is that oftentimes a win or a lose comes down to not you and the whole field but one other person. And I was contesting with another person for a position, and because he saw a chance to get it, his spirits came up, and I had to kind of demoralize him a little bit and play some games back and forth, not being rude, not being mean, but just my demeanor, my mannerisms, showing the amount of confidence I did, saying little small things to him that sounded somewhat supportive, but they were not. You understand the difference? So just little things like that probably got me further with a win than the other stuff could have, because it made him have some self-doubts while I maintained confidence. That little bit of difference could be worth more than the 5 kilos using a different technique is, and then you haven't messed with your training philosophy and other things. And those things, even though we say those things, we say those when we're talking about the best in the world. For example, I'm not talking about people who could have any life outside of their goal. Because a lot of people can work very, very hard for a goal, sacrifice a lot, and do almost anything to win. And we would call that anything to win, without sacrificing everything. Whereas when they've interviewed people who are Olympic medal winners, in interviews, the majority of them, when they have polled them, have said if they could do whatever it took to win a gold medal in their sport, would they be okay with living longer and not getting the medal versus winning their gold medal and dying 2 years after. The majority of them said they would rather win their gold medal and be dead 2 years after than to not get the gold medal. That is a very extreme individual, and I'm telling most of you that unless you're going to do something that extreme in your life, and that is your all-encompassing life goal, then obviously you don't fall into that category of literally anything to win. We are talking about reasonable sacrifices. There are people who want something so badly that they are willing to sacrifice relationships, friendships, things like that. But what I tell people is that's the goal of someone who really wants to win. I'm not saying that it's always in your personal best interest to do anything to win. You have to understand the difference. I was talking about the mentality of a champion, and oftentimes for a person to be a true champion, they have to sacrifice everything else in their life. And if you're taking that sort of philosophy for something really silly that maybe doesn't have any true prestige and fulfillment in your life. I mean, for most people, winning a gold medal in the Olympics has a massive amount of prestige that could be considered a life-encompassing goal. Becoming a billionaire company owner could be seen as an all-encompassing life goal. When people take that mentality who just want to look really good at the beach and they kill themselves in 3 years trying to do it, they might have done anything, sacrificed everything in order to reach their goal, but it was for something really arbitrary, and it generally didn't give them any fulfillment. The other things give people a true fulfillment in life. A gold medal in the Olympics, if you're an athlete, could be true fulfillment and quality of life for the time you have, whereas in some of the other goals that people set out, I'm not talking about them, because those goals are oftentimes very self-destructive and they're not fulfilling. They're not happy with it, and so they end up sacrificing everything for a low quality of life at the end of the day, because they're still not happy or contented. So understand the difference there, and understand I'm not being hypocritical there, because I'm saying I have a philosophy I agree with and I still wouldn't have won. Now the exception would be, let's say I'm somewhere and I'm really close using my old technique and I can't seem to push any better, and I'm 5 or 10 kilos away from a state record, a national record, a world record. And if I have to adjust that technique to something I philosophically don't like for my whole training and fitness philosophy reasons, in order to reach a major goal like that, I would probably do so in that situation. But that is a different situation than doing it when it's not even going to help me win anything different, and I'm not getting anything out of abandoning a philosophy that I happen to believe in terms of training and training goals. So hopefully that makes sense there. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time. But let me give you guys a bicep shot before I go. Oh, Mount Bicepius.